A. Used before countable or singular nouns referring to people or things that have not already been mentioned. For example, a man course unit.
Abstract.
Abstract. Based on general ideas and not on any particular real person, thing, or situation. For example, abstract knowledge/principles.
A large quantity that is more than enough. For example, the brochure promised beautiful walks with an abundance of wildlife.
Accent.
Accent. A way of pronouncing the words of a language that shows which country, area, or social class a person comes from, how well somebody pronounces a particular language. For example, a Northern Dublin a Scottish accent.
Accordingly. In a way that is appropriate to what has been done or said in a particular situation. For example, we have to discover his plans and act accordingly.
Accumulation. The process of gradually increasing or getting more and more of something over a period of time. For example, the accumulation of wealth.
Achieve.
Achieve. To succeed in reaching a particular goal, status, or standard, especially by making an effort for a long time. For example, he had finally achieved success.
Act. To do something for a particular purpose or in order to deal with a situation. For example, act to do something.
Actor.
Actor. A person who performs on the stage, on television, or in films, especially as a profession. For example, both lead actors, equals the ones who play the main parts, are outstanding.
Actress.
Actress. A woman who performs on the stage, on television, or in films, especially as a profession. For example, the Oscar-winning actress has taken a break from acting. Adequate. Enough in quantity, or good enough in quality, for a particular purpose or need. For example, they'll need an adequate supply of hot water. Adequately. In a way that is enough in quantity, or good enough in quality, for a particular purpose or need. For example, are you adequately insured? Advance. If knowledge, technology, etc. advances, it develops and improves. For example, technology is advancing at an incredibly rapid pace.
Aesthetic.
Aesthetic. Connected with beauty and art and the understanding of beautiful things. For example, the aesthetic appeal of the songs.
Ago. Used in expressions of time with the simple past tense to show how far in the past something happened. For example, 2 weeks/months/years ago.
Already. Before now or before a particular time in the past. For example, lunch. No thanks.
Although. Used for introducing a statement that makes the main statement in a sentence seem surprising. For example, although the sun was shining.
Amazing.
Amazing. Very surprising, especially in a way that you like or admire. For example, an amazing feat, storied experience. Amusing. Funny and giving pleasure. For example, an amusing story/game/incident.
Angel. A spirit who is believed to be a servant of God, and is sent by God to deliver a message or perform a task. Angels are often shown dressed in white, with wings. For example, a host of angels. Apart. Separated by a distance of space or time. For example, the two houses stood 500 meters apart.
Apologize. To say that you are sorry for doing something wrong or causing a problem. For example, why should I apologize?
Apparatus. The tools or other pieces of equipment that are needed for a particular activity or task. For example, a piece of laboratory apparatus.
Appropriate.
Appropriate. Suitable, acceptable or correct for the particular circumstances. For example, an appropriate response, a measure, a method.
Appropriately. In a way that is suitable, acceptable, or correct for the particular circumstances. For example, the government has been accused of not responding appropriately to the needs of the homeless.
Approximately.
Approximately. Used to show that something is almost, but not completely, accurate or correct. For example, the journey took approximately 7 hours.
Area. Part of a place, town, etc., or a region of a country or the world. For example, to improve access to services in rural areas.
Arise.
Arise. To happen, to start to exist. For example, an opportunity arose to work in the United States. Art. The use of the imagination to express ideas or feelings, particularly in painting, drawing or sculpture. For example, modern/contemporary art.
Artist.
Artist. A person who creates works of art, especially paintings or drawings. For example, an exhibition of work by contemporary British artists.
Artistic.
Artistic. Connected with art or artists. For example, the artistic works of the period.
Assembly.
Assembly. A group of people who have been elected to meet together regularly and make decisions or laws for a particular region or country. For example, state/legislative/federal/local assemblies.
Association.
Association. An official group of people who have joined together for a particular purpose. For example, do you belong to any professional or trade associations?
Assurance.
Assurance. A statement that something will certainly be true or will certainly happen, particularly when there has been doubt about it. For example, they called for assurances that the government is committed to its education policy.
Astonishing. Very surprising, difficult to believe. For example, she ran 100 m in an astonishing 10.6 seconds.
Attribute.
Attribute. A quality or feature of somebody/something. For example, patience is one of the most important attributes in a teacher.
Author.
Author. A person who writes books or the person who wrote a particular book. For example, who is your favorite author?
Badge.
Badge. A small piece of metal or plastic, with a design or words on it, that a person wears or carries to show that they belong to an organization, support something, have achieved something, have a particular rank, etc. For example, she wore a badge saying vote for Coates.
Balanced.
Balanced. Keeping or showing a balance so that different things or different parts of something exist in equal or correct amounts. For example, the program presented a balanced view of the two sides of the conflict.
Ballet.
Ballet. A style of dancing that tells a dramatic story with music but no talking or singing. For example, she wants to be a ballet dancer. Band. A small group of musicians who play popular music together, often with a singer or singers. For example, a rock/punk/jazz band.
Basement.
Basement. A room or rooms in a building, partly or completely below the level of the ground. For example, kitchen goods are sold in the basement.
Basic.
Basic. Forming the part of something that is most necessary and from which other things develop. For example, basic information/facts/ideas.
Bass. The lowest tone or part in music, for instruments or voices. For example, he always plays his stereo with the bass turned right up.
B. Used when you are naming people or things, describing them or giving more information about them. For example, plus noun.
Beam. A line of light, electromagnetic waves, or particles. For example, narrow beams of light/sunlight.
Become.
Become. To start to be something. For example, plus adjective.
Begin. To start doing something, to do the first part of something. For example, shall I begin?
Beginning.
Beginning. The time when something starts, the first part of an event, a story, etc. For example, a story has to have a beginning.
Behave.
Behave. To do things in a particular way. For example, the doctor behaved very unprofessionally.
Bend. A curve or turn, especially in a road or river. For example, a sharp bend in the road.
Bet. To risk money on a race or an event by trying to predict the result. For example, you have to be over 16 to bet.
Blade.
Blade. The flat part of a knife, tool or machine, which has a sharp edge or edges for cutting. For example, the machine comes with a plastic guard over the blade to protect the operator.
Blast. An explosion or a powerful movement of air caused by an explosion. For example, a bomb blast.
Boast.
Boast. To talk in a way that shows you are too proud of something that you have or can do. For example, I don't want to boast.
Bomb. To attack something/somebody by leaving a bomb in a place or by dropping bombs from a plane. For example, warplanes bombed targets in and around the capital. Book. A set of printed pages that are fastened inside a cover so that you can turn them and read them. For example, his desk was covered with piles of books.
Bottom.
Bottom. In the lowest, last, or furthest place or position. For example, your bottom lip.
Break. A short period of time when you stop what you are doing and rest, eat, etc. For example, she was on her lunch break.
Build.
Build. To make something, especially a building, by putting parts together. For example, build something.